And welcome again, and thank you for joining us at the Gauteng Women in Tourism webinar this afternoon. My name is Anele Mtsikwa, and I am from Destination Marketing at the Gauteng Tourism Authority. And I again will be facilitating the session during this lunchtime hour for the next hour and a half. Last week, we wrapped up and bid farewell to Women's Month by hosting our first Women in Tourism Trade webinar, where we were joined by women in the Gauteng tourism trade industry. And it was a session that explored a myriad of discussions ranging from the role of women in the industry, the tweaks and the pivots that are needed to be considered in order for us to remain relevant and to see women-owned tourism businesses through this time of a COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the now reopening of the tourism sector. Now, if you missed out on that thought-provoking insights discussion, you can check it out on our podcast, on our YouTube channel. We are at Gauteng Tourism Authority. It is also on our Facebook page, which is I Love Gauteng. Now, as we look forward to having the insights and contributions and learning from each other today, I would just like to present a few house rules for the session. My request is that you please mute your mics throughout the session so that we can give our panel members a chance to be audible. And again, you will have an opportunity for questions and comments at the end of the discussions. During the presentations, you are more than welcome to submit your comments and questions on the Q&A section. You'll see it just below your screen. And also, please feel free to share on the discussions on social media. We are at Visit Gauteng on Twitter and Instagram. And again, I Love Gauteng on Facebook using the hashtag GP Tourism Women Engage. Now, September is well upon us. September is also Tourism Month. And we have shifted a gear up. We're, of course, now allowed to travel, and government has put together protocols that, again, if followed, should put us in good stead in terms of bringing tourism back in a safe and a responsible manner. It's also getting warmer, although I know it might not feel that way today in Gauteng, but we've certainly started looking for some inspiration to get out there and travel ideas and itineraries of places to go visit as the spring to summer season kicks in, which is why today we are joined by the women trailblazers that have inspired us with the amazing travel stories, attractions, and destinations that we have countrywide. And those women are our Women in Tourism Media. Now, this Gauteng Women in Tourism Media webinar is hosted under the theme Sustainable and Creative Solutions in the Promotion of Destination Gauteng. The session is also happening at a time where we have found ourselves really under massive uncertainty in terms of all the areas of the economy, and the world is obviously now trying to adjust to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the one thing that has been evident, however, from our experience with the pandemic is that the world really has become increasingly digital, and our digital skills are now more critical as ever as we build into a new reality that is more digital, that is more sustainable, and certainly requires for us to be more innovative. So during this session, we want to share insights on how this has affected the tourism sector, and also learn how to recover confidence as we reopen and rebuild really trust through our digital skills using data as the recovery starts to build pace. We are joined by 3 dynamic women from various media landscapes and tourism who will be participating as panel members during this webinar. Now, these ladies have in many instances persuaded us and many others to an action when it comes to travel. And they've done this quite successfully through their stories, their writings, and their online content. You'll often see them posting gorgeous images from your popular to your remote and more hidden destinations on social media. They are journalists, they are digital marketing strategists, they are media creatives and travel influencers. And they've brought a great deal of impact into the tourism industry through their media work. And again, in the aim of showcasing the resilience of female media professionals within the sector, as they eagerly await to get back to their passion, they today will be sharing on how they've made it through the COVID-19 challenges. They'll give a more personal perspective and understanding on the real-time impact of the sector, and also given the fact that, I mean, some have had to reinvent themselves to continue with their activities. They'll also share some creative and innovative ways on how to move forward given the digital landscape in which we find ourselves in. So as I introduce our panel members, could they show themselves on video and perhaps give us a quick wave so we meet you? And just ensure that you have your mics on, ladies. I'll start with Diane. We have Diane Naidu, who is a writer. She is a PR strategist and an overall lover of travel. Hello, Diane.
Hey, Anele.
We have Mpo Eshla Mashiko, who is a travel influencer. She is also a digital content creator. And many of us know her as one of the original liker of things on social media.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mpo. And last but not least, we have Utando Dlalisa, who is a digital editor and strategist at Daily Sun. Hello, Tando.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tando. I just lost my network there a little bit.
No problem. It comes with the turf of being more digital now, I guess. But to kick off on the discussions, I mean, as I'd mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic really raised some serious questions for communicators, for destination marketers, brands, and organizations alike. I mean, just when we thought, okay, it's 2020, we are moving into greater ways of communicating and selling tourism, we found ourselves all of a sudden having to pause. We canceled some campaigns, we had to postpone events. And I mean, in the ultimate, we had to rethink our content strategies for the year. Brands have had to alter their communication strategies. And on a tourism side, we now had to start being more sensitive to a traveler's concerns. And then on the flip side, we had to adapt to a quick change in the consumer content consumption and behavior, because we were now taken into a position where digital communication spaces were on the rise. And now considering this, where did that leave media that covers the travel the travel industry rather? And during the hard lockdown, I mean, for myself personally, being at Gauteng Tourism and destination marketing, we as a team had to start thinking about, okay, how do we now avoid being cheerleaders of travel, while at the same time we are all about travel and we still certainly believe in the power of travel. As a media communicator, how do you start to pitch media, media stories for them to start covering a crisis for tourism? And again, today, what role does the media come to play in terms of making the travel industry a better one? Now that we are reopening, I mean, it was new. It still is very new for us communicators. And I want to bring on Diane to this discussion. I mean, Diane, you've been in the travel and tourism game since your very first job, which was in tourism. Being a media person, being a PR guru for the industry, and also now more recently as the GM at Cradle Tourism Association, tourism has clearly been in your fiber. You're assisting with communicating for a brand that tells the story of human origin in the cradle of humankind. And then all of a sudden there was a pause in collecting those experiences. What did the pandemic mean for you in terms of how you had to start communicating differently in telling the stories that matter, and also given the digital landscape where we find ourselves in now? As a communicator, we are reopening, we are recovering. I'll hand over to you, Diane, to share this experience with us.
Thank you, Anele. Well, I must tell you, I'm really, really excited about where things are at. And it might sound a bit crazy, given all the constraints and the restrictions and the loss of income, the loss of revenues and the loss of jobs. I'm really excited about the way that the tourism industry now has to almost pivot. They're being forced into a space where they have to segue what they are offering and how they share those stories. So the presentation that I prepared is not a death by PowerPoint presentation. It's a very brief one. It's called A Return to Real Connection. So what I did was I first started looking at what is the origin of this word travel. So I didn't actually know that the word travel comes from an old French word, which means strenuous toil or to work. From the Middle English word, it comes from travail, which means to torment, labor, and to strive. It actually means struggle. So when we talk about travel, we don't think of it in terms of it being a struggle. We don't think of it in terms of being strenuous toil, but that's actually the origin of the word. And the reason for that is that people used to travel for adventure, for trade, and for discovery. If we go way, way back, some of you might be saying, well, some people traveled, the reason why they traveled was to colonize, to conquer countries, and to conquer new lands. And that certainly was where it all started. But over the years, travel has evolved. The reason why people travel has evolved to a great extent. And in my view, it's really about feeling and connecting and experiencing new things. And it's not just about the feel, the connect, and the experience. It's about collecting those feelings, collecting those connections, and collecting a range of experiences which can be shared. And I think that's really the important thing for me in terms of why I travel, why I enjoy traveling. I want to feel things. I want to connect with new places, new people. I want to share the experience of different flavors and tastes and cultures. That's really why I travel. But then came COVID. As you said, COVID changed absolutely everything. So there was no more adventure, to some extent, no trade, no discovery, no connections, and no new experiences. And that for a lot of people has been quite difficult. I mean, I must admit that I'm actually a hermit. I'm a recluse, which is maybe a contradiction in terms of, in the sense that I enjoy traveling and I enjoy meeting new people. I don't really like going out, but if I do go out, that's why I'm going out. It's for that connection. It's for that new experience. It's to feel new things. And then what we found is, I mean, we are all social beings. We want to be around people, be with people, touch and feel. Again, like I said, what was so strange that for someone who was generally a hermit, generally a recluse, because they said we could not travel, that's what I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was travel and go out to different places. So it's this whole new COVID environment has challenged people in the sense that you only now have digital connection. Physical connection was what I call outlawed. It's been outlawed for, I mean, in many different ways. We're now greeting each other with elbows. I mean, if we had ever predicted that in like 2 years ago that we would now be greeting each other with elbows and through masks and visors and keeping 2-meter distances between people, no one could have predicted that. So what this physical distancing has done is it has challenged us to still find ways to connect with each other without that physical touch. And I think it's important to note that, you know, when you're meeting with clients, whether it is a big client that you're working for in the service industry or whether it's in a restaurant or whatever it is, physical connection can be quite intimidating. It's not something that comes easily to everybody. So now you take away the physical component and you've still got to build rapport and maintain rapport with people that you can't even physically see in front of you. That becomes really hard. And I think what we've also seen coming out or coming through the cracks, if I can call it that, is that now everybody's an influencer. It's the rise of Obama. Yes, we can. People who never thought that they could ever be filming themselves cooking or preparing a meal or doing sort of art classes or whatever kind of class, master classes it is, fitness instructors, yoga instructors, meditation instructors, everybody's in this space at the moment. And I think it makes sense because we are a global village in terms of connectivity. But what does it mean for the rest of the people, the rest of those who are not connected digitally? So are we only then going to be speaking to a certain audience that is connected, that has the great signal and strength of the fiber, whatever, they've got the best packages? What about the rest of us who don't have that? So when we are communicating, again, it's just another layer, it's another challenge that we are facing in terms of telling stories and promoting travel while being sensitive to the restrictions. How do we bridge that gap for those who are not connected? So it is quite a challenge that we are facing at the moment. What I've seen is a number of hotels, lodges, restaurants they've basically embraced the change and said, basically, we will adapt or die. We have to adapt or die. Survival of the fittest. We now have to transform our businesses. We now have to pivot in the way that we present what we are offering. In a number of instances, I've seen hotels, guest houses, conference facilities become quarantine zones. It's one way that they have found to continue some form of revenue or income. I've seen a number of restaurants pivoting into home delivery services where people can still enjoy a restaurant meal, but at home. I've seen tour operators morphing into essential service providers in terms of transporting or logistics. I've also seen some restaurants and hotels selling online vouchers. I mean, there was one, I think one of these ticketing agencies, when they started selling online vouchers, the first restaurant that signed on sold 10,000 rands worth of vouchers in just the first hour. So that was really phenomenal. And we've seen businesses willing to pivot and to go in a different direction. And also in the cradle, you mentioned the cradle. Inside the cradle, we've got two owners, product owners, who have pivoted and said, well, collectively, we've got 6 hectares of land that we are willing to make available for food gardening in the short term, and in the long term going into a commercial farming opportunity. So the reason why all of this is so important, and coming back to the origin of travel and the word travel and why people travel, what people normally would show, and I mean, you know, Anele, we've had these conversations before, where people don't really care how many beds you've got. They don't care what the thread count is on those duvets. They want to know what the experience is. So we've seen a lot of tourism products and owners pivoting their business towards shared good, towards mutual benefit within communities. And that for me is probably the biggest part of these new stories that we will now be telling in terms of tourism. I mean, tourism, you do know, and all of those of us who are on this conversation, on this panel today, we understand that tourism is a key driver for social development and social transformation. It creates jobs, there's opportunity for empowerment, for ownership, particularly for previously disadvantaged communities. So tourism is not just about the feel good, it literally is about that shared good. And I think I want to come back to what I said in the start, is that I'm so excited about the way that business and the business of tourism is shifting. It's pivoting now towards a more obvious and a more blatant and a more visible shared good. That for me is really exciting. So the stories that we tell, I think it's really important, because a lot of people are feeling so much anxiety at this time. Like, how will I survive? How will I maintain my job? Will I maintain my income? Will I maintain my employees? So I think it's really important at this moment, and I'm very touchy-feely, as you know, I'm all about the feels. I think it's important that the stories that we tell are not only about those feel-good and lekker vibes. It's got to be about hope and inspiration. If there are stories that offer real solutions to real problems, like those 2 landowners that I spoke of, the product owners, who've now allocated land for food gardening, those are real solutions, real problems, and real people needs. And I've got on the side there, you'll see there are 3 pictures. I think it's important that the pictures that we share, and I think Paul will probably add more, or shed more light on that. It's important that our pictures share an emotion, because people want to feel an emotion when they look at a picture. They want to feel something, experience something, even if it's just a picture. They want to feel like, I wish I was there, or what was she thinking, or what was he thinking, what were they doing? I think that's really important. It ties back into stories that matter, stories about hope and stories of inspiration. And pictures are able to do that. Conversation that engages and that makes you laugh, which is generally who I am. I'm the fool in my own story most of the time. When I travel, I like getting lost. I can go around the block. I think it was once in Durban where I'd gone three different routes, and I got lost 3 times. And it was the best story ever. I mean, there was another one where, and I think we all have those stories where the road is long and there's no toilet in sight, and you're going to find a bush somewhere and pray to God that you don't get arrested for public indecency. Those are real stories. And for me, those are the ones that will engage people about destinations, about products, about places, about foods that you could eat. So I don't know, my last point there, it says stories that make you swipe right. I'm not on Tinder, so I don't know if that's the right one. Is it left or right? So I think that's important, that we share stories that are noteworthy, stories worth sharing. It can't only be good for us. So it's got to be the kind of content that keeps people tickled or inspired or gives them hope or gives them ideas. We definitely want to be in that space where people are constantly swiping right. I see, Anili, you have not answered if it's left or right, but that's okay. So what we did as Cradle, I want to end here. In terms of what we did for the Cradle, we started a conversation called Hope in the Time of Corona, brought to you by Cradle of Humankind and the Cradle Tourism Company. And we interviewed a number of people from across the country in different spaces. Yes, we interviewed people who are in the tourism sector in South Africa, in Gauteng, in the Cradle. But we also wanted to speak to other people around the country and around the globe in terms of what they were experiencing. I think at that time it was so, I think everybody was like in this bubble. Is this thing really happening? Is it real? Is this really where we are at? And I think the purpose of why we shared these stories, I mean, we had someone from New York. He was the editor for Huffington Post. We had Charlene Smith, the very well-known writer and biographer for Nelson Mandela. We had the crazy Malusi Shabalala with his off-the-cuff, unorthodox thoughts. And we wanted to just basically present the Cradle as it's the origin of humankind. It's also the origin of human hearts, the origin of human experiences. And that's what we wanted to share right up front in the beginning of this global lockdown that had happened, just to help people feel like they're not in this alone. And I think if anything good is to come out of the lockdown, it's going to be this, that we will share our commonness, we will share our humanity, and that our experiences may be different, but they are valid just the same. And it's going to be those stories that will connect people to places, to foods and flavors and music and cultures. So from my side, there really is a return to real connection amongst people, between people, across borders. And I'm really, really excited about what I'm seeing and where it's going. Thank you, Anele.
All right. No, thank you, Diane. It's safe to say I'm sorted. I neither swipe left or right. So yeah.
I trust you.
if that makes you feel okay. But yeah, thank you so much for your presentation, Diane. I quite agree. And when you touch on stories of hope and of human triumph, and more so even on human everyday life, you can't help but think about how, especially us as South Africans, you know, we've always been known to have a knack for creative improvisation, particularly even on social media. And that's never felt truer than true than the type of content in which we saw during the hard lockdown. I mean, the country's new national pastime was social media challenges, which we saw mostly on TikTok. And, you know, we were sharing with our friends, we were sharing with family, and that really brought moments of really a shared national spirit. It was a time where we challenged, I think we channeled a lot of those moments of chaos, of anxiety and uncertainty into humor, into beauty, and indirectly, whether we knew so or not, but we happened to spread some hope, and we boosted morale in terms of how we survived the lockdown. And this happened purely within viral social media content. Tell me, Diane, did you find yourself participating in any of the social media challenges?
It's safe to say no. It's safe to say no. I'm a technophobe. My daughter swears she wants a maternity test because she's got a lot more rhythm than I do. But I will tell you this much. I mean, you look at the Jerusalem challenge, which is taken off across the globe. And look at what a beautiful way to sell a destination without even selling a destination. Absolutely. It's that kind of happiness, that kind of visual. I mean, every time when I watched these different ones, it was one of these Italian pensioners. And I wanted to cry. It was so beautiful. It was so emotive. And it was about the fact that that hope and that happiness started here in South Africa. And for me, that's selling a destination. That's something that money and all the DMO kind of funding could never cover. That for me was just phenomenal. And I have not mastered that one either, yeah? I haven't mastered that one, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, one of the positives of the lockdown was really, under this pandemic imposed family time, and even at a time when our social life was curtailed, there certainly was moments where, this brought the very best of South Africa's ingenuity and the spirit that kept us busy. Is there any other campaigns that you think, there was the Jerusalem Challenge that you've mentioned? Anything else maybe that stuck to mind during the lockdown in terms of all the social media campaigns that
Yeah, there was definitely one. I'll tell you the one that I particularly liked was View from My Window. So I wish that we had done that. I wish that the Cradle or Gauteng Tourism or SAT had started it. So I think it was again one of those that picked up so quickly. It was a global campaign. So before you knew it, there was about 870,000 followers. People just taking pictures from their windows. It was phenomenal. I mean, imagine just catching a glimpse of where people were at and what they were seeing. And because they were in lockdown, it was a moment of celebration for me that was again so profound, because you could have taken it from a shack in Masipumalele and Houtbay and you could have gotten a view of what's on other people's rooftops. Or you could have been in the Grand Canyon on the South Rim, overlooking the South Rim. For me, that was just, again, such a beautiful campaign that sold destinations without selling it. It was very organic, very authentic. And I think, again, for me, that's the point of it, is that people want real connection. There is a return to that. So while people may be traveling most days, or maybe a couple of months ago, maybe last few years, they would have been traveling because they live for the gram or they live for Facebook, or sorry, Mpo, I'm not knocking you. But I think what people are looking for now in terms of getting out, there's cabin fever definitely at work, but people do want to feel connected again. People do want real experiences again. And that's why I'm talking about the fun stuff, the stupid stuff. And there's so many things that I will not mention. I will take them with me to the grave, like all the dumb things that I've done. But those are real experiences. So yeah, View from My Window, Aneli, that was, I think, the best one for me.
Speaking of challenges and strategizing digital content, maybe let me bring Tando in here. I remember a time during level 4 and 5 where there was this frenzy on cooking, and I'm not even going to get started on brewing. But yeah, definitely cooking challenges on social media, saw publications online sharing recipe submissions from followers. Now, Tando, you as a digital strategist and an editor at Daily Sun, was there a need for you to start shifting your news content to start speaking to the circumstance that we were faced with now that we were at home? And how did you have to optimize that content and the digital platforms, given that now we were in a pandemic?
Anele, thank you so much for the question. I've always been an advocate for all things digital. I became an editor at an extremely young age because they saw my passion at my workplace. So as soon as the pandemic hit, we just strategized as a team and ideas were being put out there, and especially from the young people. I feel like companies are not listening a lot to young people or young leaders. So for me, I felt like it's an opportunity to step up and show the organization that digital really is the future. So the first thing I did was to tell our newsroom that we need to be people oriented. Yes, Daily Sun is a people oriented paper, but we have lost our ways in terms of, I don't know if you guys can still hear me. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so we had to re-strategize in terms of connecting with the people. What we were doing even after the lockdown was still reporting on general news and still reporting news. There are people who were losing family members. There were people who were dying from COVID. There were people who did not have proper access to how do we fight or protect ourselves from this virus. And that's when we had to become more human. So organizations, yes, you're an organization, but you need to have a human element, especially when you are on social media. social media is there because it is social. It is a platform where you can socialize with people. You can't just come in there and pump information 24/7. There needs to be an engagement. There needs to be a form of connection. So when we started, we started doing competitions and like just general engagement. Some of it was not even for website clicks, but it was just for people to know that, you know what, during lockdown, there's somewhere I can go to have fun. So we told people to send in their pictures of what they're doing during lockdown. And that's where the numbers started increasing. People would come through like, this is what I'm doing. I'm having coffee. And just to echo what Diane was saying, it doesn't matter where you were. The nice thing about COVID is that judgment left. You could be in a shack, you could be in a mansion. We just want to see, what are you doing? That's all, because we're all at home. We were all at home. We all had the same access to resources.
Yeah.
We only had shops, especially with the 21 days. All we had was food shops. There was no traveling. There was nothing. Nothing made anyone better than the next person. We all were under the same rules. So it was just nice to interact and see what is everyone up to. So I think just to wrap this part up is that be human as an organization. Whether you're a travel or a news organization, try to see what's happening on the ground. Let's pause a little bit. Yes, we want to give people this information, but let's be human. People are dying, and how do we engage? Yeah.
I want to bring in your digital expertise here. Diane mentioned, some of us are just, there's always a like of thing. She wants to go out there. You want to meet people. You want to give hugs. We want to touch each other. And it's evident that, during the lockdown, we were forced really to get less closer to each other and engaged in less direct ways. I mean, we now have face to virtual face interactions with our devices. That's now a big thing. Now, within the business environment, we also witnessed that digital transformation was happening at an aggressive pace. When you think about technical adoption curves, which things that traditionally would have taken us months or years were accelerated to days or weeks. Do you think, Thando, we are ready to embrace a new world order where we are now compelled to change the way we think, the way we communicate, and the way in which we behave?
I think whether we're ready or not, it's here. It is here. The new world order has officially started during the COVID, and it's either you find your place in the new world order or you get left behind. But we have to face facts that there is a new world order. I feel like our cell phones is the new world. I don't know if I could possibly paint a picture of what I'm trying to elaborate with the new world order. At first, we were flying to places. We were trading. We were, trying to connect via the physical, we had conferences. Look at us today. We're having a webinar. It's still continuing. We're in a new world order. If you guys had not thought of doing a webinar, you'd still be scratching your heads trying to wait for the next level so that we can gather in a conference room. You get what I'm saying? So the new world order is currently underway, and it's either you find your way or not. So the new world order is your cell phone. I don't know if you guys see on your home screen, like the home screen?
Yes.
It's like a world on its own. There's Facebook, Instagram, this and that, Zoom. It's like a whole world. I don't know if I'm painting it properly the way I'm seeing it, but there's a world that is on your iPad, that is on your laptop, that is on your phone, and you are now at home. Remember, we're all at home, and we were connecting through this new world that we hold in our hands. So if you want to be a business owner, if you want to be whatever, you need to find a way. How do I get a piece of the pie in this new world order? Do I create an app? Do I create a website? Do I, fix my social media pages? But there's a new world order, and this is how we socialize now. Look at it now. There's travel bans. We can't go outside of the country, those kind of things. You need to, as a business or an organization, find your place in this new world order. Yeah. And it is digital.
Now in this new world order, a new buzzword, how do you think travel brands, destination marketing organizations and marketers at large, how do we start finding a voice in this new world order? Who do we talk to? There's things like a digital identity, and if you are, say, a small travel business, or you are a lodge, or you're a DMO, like I've mentioned, if you went so much into digital and having a digital identity, what advice would you give? I mean, what is a digital identity, and what does it entail, and how do marketers find it, so to speak? But more so, how do you suppose that travel marketers start engaging with audiences and producing content in this new world?
Good question, Anile. Guys, I'm a digital strategist. So what I'm about to answer is literally free. I usually charge for this type of an answer. So everyone listen carefully. So how you find your digital identity and how you reestablish yourself in this climate that we're in, especially for travel companies, is to honestly be quick-witted and have a sense of humor. I don't know if you guys see how quick Nando's is when they respond to things. It's very quick, it's very on the ball. So with travel organizations, I would start with something as simple as a hashtag. Find out or Google or get someone or invest in digital strategists. One I can give you is the hashtag Go Back to Africa. So you guys know that there's a racism issue happening in America. And a lot of the times, the Black Americans are being told to go back to Africa. Okay, so what the Black Americans did is that they flipped that hashtag around, and they are actually visiting more of Africa. Before this whole lockdown, they were visiting more in Africa, and they didn't know that we have such beautiful spaces. Just like the way you guys do, Anele, you show us how beautiful Gauteng is, that I don't have to necessarily go outside to experience what you're craving. Those Instagram type of vibes are actually just in and around us, here in the cradle of humankind, you know? So that hashtag, when you search that hashtag on social media, you see extremely beautiful images of Africa, Ghana, South Africa, whatever the case may be. So they flip the script. So you start somewhere there. We are in Africa. You can join the hashtag. The nice thing about social media, you can join a bandwagon. Yes. So there's another one, Africa is not a jungle. That one, it even reaches international, because people in Africa have been trying to prove that we are not a jungle. It is very fabulous here. So that's also one important hashtag. So it's one thing about tagging and using hashtags and getting people to post and think of you, whichever travel organization that you are. If people are in the cradle of humankind, if people are wherever, they need to know that if we post here, we get engagement. You guys retweet people. You guys say, thank you for coming. You guys, because people are done with, I don't want to put this in a bad way, but of nursing brands online. People have their own phones and they have their own friends on social media. You like your own friends' things that you don't necessarily have to be focusing on a News 24 or on a Gauteng, tourism. But if Gauteng tourism is acting like a friend and is engaging and not like a celebrity, then you're more likely to post their things. Like, I found this cute coffee shop in Joburg. You post the name and you think, oh, let me tag Visit Gauteng, because I know they will be more engaging. So
yeah, the one thing that's just popped in my mind now is also the fact that, as much as we're giving this advice for, let's say, startups and your young businesses in the travel and tourism industry, digital is quite expensive. And sometimes, we don't have the means to boost posts, and we're seeing a lot of the digital platforms coming in and forcing us to pay for people to see our content. How do you suppose we work around those issues? Is there really a need to start putting budget behind digital platforms? Is there still really value in staying organic?
There definitely is value in staying organic, and hence I said companies should invest in digital strategists, because those people know how to make things look organic. Everything I've suggested right now, it would honestly look organic, whether you're a startup or not. By joining a hashtag, you will get engagement already organically created by that hashtag, so you don't have to pay. You just need to be more vigilant, especially on Twitter and things like that. Every day you wake up on Twitter, there's 10 hashtags that are trending. One of them needs to be aligned to your brand, or would be aligned to your brand. Take one of those and run with it, especially for startups. For bigger companies, yes, do boost. You will reach bigger audiences, but it's just a small tip. every day there's 10 hashtags trending on Twitter. They vary according to ranking as the hours go by. Just find one that is in line with your brand,
Okay.
because so that you don't look like a spam. Yeah.
I think that's very helpful. Now, there hasn't really been much discussion on the impact of the coronavirus on digital influencers. During the hard lockdown, we saw marketing brands becoming understandably hesitant to embark on influencer partnerships because many had to obviously tighten their purse strings because obviously we would have to minimize on the financial impact of the coronavirus outbreak. Now, Paul, what was the impact of all of this on yourself as a digital influencer and content creator who depends on travel content for an income?
Listen, this was literally the hardest part because creating content is what we do as likers of things. And from our side is that what do we do now? But as much as COVID happened, we have always been on the bandwagon of digital. So likers of things is mainly digital orientated. So we are not really hard hit because we're able to smooth and move with everything that happens in the digital space. I mean, in terms of, I think Tando and Diane spoke about it. We moved with the challenges. We moved with the cooking. I was part of the cooking challenge, Diane. And I've literally seen that moving with the times actually helps because you can't be stuck in one place as a brand itself. And the financial impact was there, but I could say for us, it has always been a more of move with the times or get left behind. So we did that. We've been doing that for the past 5 to 6 years, and we are doing great at this point.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing that you were still able to produce content while we were on the hard lockdown, and I'm sure this must have been a concern, much stronger concern even for other travel influencers who didn't have that ability and really whose ability is to bring fresh content to an audience that heavily relies on seeing them out there and being out there and globe-trotting. How did you ensure that that very content you're speaking about remained relevant?
Firstly, in terms of, you call me an influencer. I don't know if I'm an influencer or like those influencers, but if that's the case, I will literally take it. With depending on the content, I mean, we're stressed out. It was very, like when lockdown, on the 25th of March, when they said, we're not traveling, we're not doing anything. We're like, oh my God, what do we do now? Because we need to create content that is related to the brand. And people like things because we like things for a living. So what are we going to do now? So we can't go out to events. So brands are not coughing out any money. We can't travel to our favorite destinations and we can't eat at our favorite restaurants. So looking into that perspective, it was just, it was a big hoo-ha and a lot of people have been complaining. I'm just glad that everyone is able to travel because we were able to travel this past week as well. But in terms of the importance of content and making sure that content is still around, we always have content in advance. So some people travel all sorts of places around South Africa and outside South Africa. And we were able to engage in those level. Because Likers of Things is not only in South Africa, it's an African platform. So everybody would share their moments. Because remember, there was a hashtag called throwback to traveling, and every now and then there's just a hashtag to places that you've been to, But we looked into, we have so much content in hand that can last us the whole year, but we can't push it on the timeline to a point where we annoy our followers. So as people that tell stories for a living, we were able to kind of like simmer some of the content that we have. So if there's a food challenge on the timeline, we put in the food challenge. If there's a special day in terms of Champagne Day, we have champagne pictures. If there's a place where people can go visit around Gauteng, we share that content because we've traveled a year before, so we can still share the content even now. And the other thing is that we always try to make sure that we get more content so we don't suffer in the long run.
Well, I mentioned earlier, September is Tourism Month. We're going to start seeing a lot of the DMOs coming in and selling the idea that we are open for travel. The recovery efforts are going to begin. Travel influencers are surely going to be ready to join us in the front lines to support destinations. And most importantly, because the borders are closed, domestic tourism and traveling local will now be at the top of the agenda for DMOs. A lot of us are keen to travel, and as an influencer, can you inspire us with some ideas on some of the spaces that people should visit in Gauteng during this new?
Of course. I mean, in Gauteng, we can literally go to different spaces. I mean, there's the Soweto Towers if you want to, if you have that adrenaline running, you can go there and do all those nice activities there. There's also the Cradle Moon Diane, your side of the world. People can go there, chill, have fun. You can go hiking at a very reasonable price. And you can also go, if you're around Pretoria, you can go to Gauteng. It's also part of the Gauteng tourism sector. You can also, there's spaces around Johannesburg, the Johannesburg Park and Zoo. You don't have to pay anything else. When you also Park and Zoo in what do you call it, Joburg Zoo, and then you can go to Soweto Zoo as well, Zoo and Park, and you can just literally go to the Johannesburg Park and Zoo website and you can see places that you can go that you don't have to spend money, guys. You don't have to spend anything to go there and chill. And the other thing is that with lots of things, we have places where you can go even if you have 100 rand budgets. So the main aim of doing that is for everyone to have an experience in terms of what we do, because we share mainly events, lifestyle, and like we are your ultimate social guide. So everything social related, we are here for you guys. And I'm going to share a little bit of a video in terms of what we do and what you can look forward to when you want to travel in and around Gauteng. So I'm going to try and share my screen now. Wait.
Excite us.
There it is. Exit full screen. Can you see yet?
Not yet on my side.
Yeah, technology failing us. Okay, wait. I am playing something.
You can get audio. If you could perhaps bring through the share screen for the actual video.
Was it there, guys? Oh,
No, it's not there.
Oh, sorry. Let me try again. For Leica, I think today I'm not on spot. I'm not on point, guys. But anyway, it's a cold day in Johannesburg. So just excuse me.
And
just a little bit.
Understand.
Let me try to play this video. Yeah, okay. Dun, dun, dun. So it shows my drive, but it doesn't want to play.
We can see it.
Okay. So let me try to play this video. Anela, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it. You can press play.
Oh, can you see my full screen with all those things that are here?
We can see a very
detailed
version, almost like a thumb, maybe not a thumbnail size, but it's a
okay
screen.
Still opening. Let's see, blank screen. Yeah, no,
Okay.
yes.
Well, thank you for that. But please do share it on your social media platforms so that we can see obviously more of the things that you guys get up to. And as we reopen, we want to definitely see you out there in the fields, hey?
Yeah.
Capturing those lovely stories and the things to do within Gauteng tourism. And I think your, you know, the places that you've mentioned are definitely inspiring. I think it's time that after our armchair adventures and these virtual chats that we have, there's really a need for us to move from being inspired to inviting people to come and join us. We know that consumers are actively starting to plan their next trips. So this was a good one to inspire us from being, you know, the passive scrollers on our phones to now being out there and being proactive engagements. I think now we can move to our Q&A. We do have quite a number of questions. We'll take discussions from our attendees. I'm going to hand over to Mputle, who is assisting us from the technical team today, to read out some of your questions and comments. Panelists, I think this will also be a great time to share these details on how we can find you and follow you after the webinar. Over to you, Mputle.
Thank you so much, Anele, and thank you, ladies, for a beautiful presentation. I've got a question from Patricia Limbani. She sent us an email earlier on, and she is a self-employed marketing creative and works a lot with individuals in the entertainment industry and in corporate. She just wants to know what is the likelihood of having collaborations with any of the ladies, just to work together and see how we can, you know, just expand this chances of working together in the entertainment industry. Thank you, ladies. Did you hear that question, or you want me to repeat it?
Please repeat, Anele.
Mputle, okay. Patricia is a self-employed marketing creative, and she wants to know if you guys are open to any collaborations within the entertainment industry, particularly with individuals and in corporate.
Absolutely. This is Tando answering. Yeah.
Maybe bring in Paul and Diane. Are there opportunities for collaborations with you guys?
Yeah, well, you literally have to follow us on social platforms, and we'll talk via the DMs.
Okay. Yeah. Diane?
Same here.
Okay. Mputle, do we have any other questions and comments?
We have a comment, and I suppose it's more of a suggestion from Mapule Billings, Gauteng, and she wants to introduce a new paradigm in the tourism industry, which embraces some ecotourism. So I think for her, Di, I think that kind of speaks your language. And
yes,
what do you think of that? Yeah.
So yes, 100%. So one of the things we didn't cover was ecotourism. And I think the two property owners that I spoke about earlier are definitely moving into that ecotourism space, where they are now using their space for sustainable food gardening, finding ways to use natural resources again for shared good. So anything that is about shared good, anything that is about local sourcing, that is what ecotourism really is about. People often think that ecotourism is about the rhinos or that it's about the big five. There are small ways in which we can support and actually make sustainable tourism a reality. And for me, literally, it starts by buying local, traveling local, doing those short lets. That's the way in which we reduce carbon emissions. It's just a way to support local businesses. That's how we make sure that our businesses become sustainable and that the industry, the tourism industry as a whole, becomes more sustainable. So yes, thank you so much for that, Makule.
Okay. Putle, any other?
Awesome. I think that covered Mapule's question. And for now, these are the only questions that you have. Thank you.
All right. No, thanks, Mputle. Thank you for your questions, both on this platform and on social media. If really there's any other post this webinar, we will be happy to continue to respond to any comments or questions on our social media pages. As we wrap up, I think perhaps let's reflect on some of the key takes from the session. We realize that really now's the time for us to get skilled and accelerate tourism to drive sustainable growth that is obviously anchored by the domestic tourism drive as we kick off into Tourism Month and start promoting domestic tourism. A large part of the recovery will come through building some reassurance and trust. Many consumers, like I've mentioned, are keen to travel, but the question about what is this experience going to look like in this new normal, really definitely there the role of social media is going to help alleviate those anxieties. People need to trust people, and generally that's what we do. You know, we want to see our friends doing it, so that's why we'll do it. So using people, a user-generated content strategy and influencer content can play a significant role in showcasing in real time what a destination or a hotel or an airline experience is like. And I think alongside this, there's still a need to share useful information to help in terms of aiding those decisions. It's really about finding those social first ways to bring these messages to life. I personally would like to see some brands move away from your more dial and text heavy creatives and start creating content like videos and high impactful imagery, which will effectively communicate the key messaging in a way that is obviously fit for social. In terms of media content, I think we explored how it's going to be very important for us to find a way to add value, be it whether you are in entertainment, information, or inspiring people. You know, ask yourselves why people actually want to follow or engage with your brand on social media and what will make them keep coming back. Collaborations also came out quite strongly. If really there is a purpose, whether it's organic, whether it's paid, really if there's a natural opportunity to collaborate or join in a conversation on social media, that can be a great way to align with new audiences and elevate your brand voice. And I think lastly on my end, don't be afraid to try new things. During the lockdown, we saw a plethora of new functionalities being rolled out. I mean, we are now heavily on a Zoom platform. We also saw the likes of Facebook rooms coming in. Twitter also came in to meet some of the increasing demands in the usage and involving the consumer needs on social media. So if there's something that really catches your eye that could support your objectives as a travel brand, give it a go. And if you feel that it doesn't perform as expected, learn why and move on. If there's really any parting shots from the panelists, I'll hand over to you.
So I think I'll start. I think I like what you are saying, Anele. I think it's really important that whether you are a business owner or just a normal visitor, an ordinary citizen who loves traveling, I think you've got to look for ways to be part of this transformation of tourism in South Africa. So if there's a way, even if you are volunteering your time or you are volunteering or donating resources, even if you are like our chef in the house, our YouTuber chef, I think it is. If there are ways for you to share ideas of how to continue to feed your family, how do you repurpose leftovers? It could be small things like that that feed into the bigger tourism industry, the bigger tourism sector, just in terms of seeing opportunities and speaking about it. And then the last thing that I will say is, and I think this has been my mantra throughout this entire COVID process, entire COVID lockdown, and this is my mantra: love the ones you love, tell them, leave no kind word unspoken. That's it from me.
Thank you, Diane. Mpho?
Oh, I was on mute, sorry. overall, as lackers of things, we're actually looking forward to traveling a bit more in and around South Africa. And we've shared some of the stuff that we've been doing, so look out for it. And we are happy that Gauteng Tourism kind of like invited us to this platform to share who we are, what we do, and what we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks. So the other thing is that let's like things together, guys, at a very at a distant view and adhere to COVID-19 rules, because at this time we are in the new normal. This is the new word now, the new normal, but we can still travel, have fun, go out, go eat at different places around the city, but do it with caution. And my parting words is that, guys, life is too short. Enjoy every single moment, do whatever you need to do, experience every single thing that you want to experience, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And like Diane said, tell your family members, tell whoever it is that you admire or you want to work with or you want to do something with, tell them now, tell them today. Because like I said, tomorrow is not promised. If you want to collaborate with lackers of things and do things with us, holla, guys. If you want to, shoot your shot. Shoot your shot. This is the time where 2020 showed us that you need to do whatever you wanted to do at this point in time. The time is now. You can't wait for tomorrow. You can't wait for 2021. You are not sure if you're going to make it to 2021. And I always say to people, if you want to do something, do it. If you want to experience life, experience it. Even if you have 100 Rand in your pocket, go to that restaurant, go to that park, go and experience food that you've never even eaten. Go to the nearest, I don't know, destination that you would want to go to. You don't have to go abroad, guys, to travel. You don't have to.
Yes.
Go to your nearest spaces where you can enjoy it to the fullest. I mean, for me personally, I go around the city. I use public transport a lot. You can use your trains, you can use your taxis to travel around. So traveling obviously needs a way of transport in order for you to get there. So getting there doesn't mean you have to Uber there with like an enormous amount. You can just literally travel from point A to point B using 50 Rand, guys. But all I'm saying is that you can do whatever you want to do, as long as you believe that this is what I am destined to do, you can do it. And like I said, traveling doesn't have to be hard. It's a lifestyle. It's not leisure. But you need to enjoy every moment of your life. And yeah, make sure that you live your best life. As lackers of things on our timeline, we live life doing. And I hope everyone can do that as well.
I also want to be a liker of things. So
Let's
parting with the crew.
Listen, I know like everyone is a liker.
Because I heard you talk about how you guys are doing champagne during a lockdown. I mean, if you can find people like that.
And I tell you, that's why I always say that we live life doing. We do it really. You can have your mimosas, you can have your wine, because we are the wine girls. You can have anything that you want. You can do whatever you want, as long as you make sure that the ultimate goal of your travel goals or whatever you're doing in life, as much as with education, you know that you need to finish off within a certain period of time. So we do that as likers of things. We like things in life, and anyone who wants to join the likers, you know what to do. You can follow us on social media platforms, and also if you want to join us, do that, guys. Do that. We're available. We're available to chat as well.
Yeah, and as long as we are doing it in obviously a safe and a responsible manner. Tando?
Guys, my final words is that your hashtag is your currency. That is the new currency. Not the Rand, not the dollar, but figure out, sit in a room with your people, find a hashtag, and that is your currency. Because the more people who use it, your currency grows. You can either join one or start one. Be real, be yourself. Don't even try to be anything else. Like of things, I visited your page. I love it. It is so you, so organic. So I love it. So people gravitate to realness. And then put info out there that to put people at ease. So if you're a lodge, put information out there that the lodge is open, the lodge is functioning, we have COVID regulations, so that when anyone visits your website, they already know that people don't have to call and ask, are you guys operational? How many people should come through? So put out all that information as much as you can, and definitely shoot your shot and start where you are. I think that's one valuable lesson I can share. Start exactly where you are.
Okay.
All right.
Can I just add on something that Tando said?
Sure.
So just one little element.
Got the mic.
So Tando mentioned something about different spaces sharing their website. We, as likers of things, if you go through our timeline, Twitter and Instagram, we share all those snippets, because when you watch something, or when you see something, or when you go on your social medias early in the morning, you can just say, oh my God, there's a certain place, da 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 da. It's like I can actually spend 80 Rand on different things. And at the end of each tweet or post on our Instagram, we always advise people to go to the website to see it for themselves, rather than us sharing or punting more information on the timeline. We entice you to go to the website and say, hey guys, this is what's happening. This has been happening, but you can also get to experience it over a certain period, or if you go through their website. So I like what you said, Tando, your hashtag is your brand. I'm going to use that.
Your currency,
so before we
yes.
I know we've got 2 more questions that I can see on the chat. So maybe let's give an opportunity for that final Q&A. I'll hand over back to you, Mputle.
Thank you, Anele. It's actually 3 more questions.
Okay.
One of the question says, what is trending for family and child travel? So basically, what is the latest? What can family do? Activities that includes kids and mothers and fathers, right? And the second question is, so tourism and travel is private sector driven. So how do we create content that will unlock investment for the sector and ultimately benefit local communities? All right, you got that? And
Okay.
the other question is, how do we highlight the value of tourism or the visitor economy in our content creation in a manner that is not too formal and sociable and fun and, bring in different parts so that, everybody enjoys it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, certainly concur with the what are some of the spaces for moms and families? I know we had an extensive discussion in our last webinar around how, even the kids, we often forget about the kids because, there's so much that's happening. And, during a lockdown, we were faced with the challenge of having to entertain them within the house. Where can we take the kids to, and what can we do that's more family orientated? And maybe, Mpho, I'll ask you that.
So in terms of traveling for the whole family, sometimes it's very tricky, hey? So we found spaces that things that people can do. Mainly nowadays, hiking is the new norm. People are hiking now, but you can hike with your entire family. And you can go to the safaris as well, in and around Gauteng or wherever you want to go to, because you have to still adhere to the social distancing and also like COVID-19 rules. So when you go to different spaces, they have their own rules and regulations. So you need to book in advance for all those platforms. You can go to, like I said, you can go to Gauteng, and you can also go to certain spaces around here, like your Airbnbs around Soweto. You can go to Braamfontein. There's also a place where you can just go there for a day and enjoy yourself. If you want to be out of that space with your family and do activities as well. So there's a calendar for families or itinerary if you want to share or create more adventure spaces for the kids, because kids get bored very easily, like me, they get bored very easily. So you need to create an itinerary or design something that you want for your family. But I feel like traveling for you would literally be like the safari element of it. Just for the kids to go out of the city and hiking, but you also need to have enough water, enough energy, and also choose your hikes as well, because you can't just say, okay, we're going hiking, I'm going for a 10K hike. You can't take the kids for a 10K hike because kids get bored very, very easily. So planning your trips in terms of where you're going, and look for adventurous stuff so you and your partner and your kids can have fun. I don't know, because I don't want to expand into other provinces, because I've done something this past weekend where people can go have fun with their families. But all I'm saying is that the safari element of it, and also you can also travel and go to the nearest city parks where you can just chill with your family and have a picnic. It's easier that way, it's cost effective, and you don't really have to spend a lot to go anywhere else. I know you spoke about investment in terms of value, in terms of creating content. So for us as likers, because we like things, we take things as they are. We are literally telling, not even telling, we are giving you the ultimate experience. The experience of who am I and what do I want to do and how I want to do it as well. So on a day-to-day basis, that's what we say we live life doing. What would you want to do in spaces in terms of creating content? So creating the content for us is that if I take a particular shot in terms of maybe champagne glass, food, and I don't know, outdoor adventures, and Diane mentioned earlier on that view through your window. How do I make it enticing for other people to be or jump on the bandwagon? So we do it look at it as a consumer perspective before you post on your social media content. Because when you buy something at the shop, you want to see it, you want to feel it, you want to touch it. So we are giving you that ultimate platform where you look at it and say, okay, content, like we always say that content is key. But what you see through your eyes tells or sells the story more. So the creating and creating social value in terms of entertainment, it's very hard because everyone likes different things. Some people might like content relating to alcohol, some might like activities, some activities regarding accommodation. But all I'm saying is that if you want to share your content that is valuable, that is fun, look at it in the perspective of, would people like to see me in this format before I post it?
Okay.
If I post a picture that doesn't relate to what I feel internally, then you shouldn't put it on the timeline. So you must create things that you think about it and say, oh, do I want to be in the space? Or if you take a picture, like when you take a selfie, you probably take 5 selfies, but you only post 1 selfie. Why do I post that particular selfie instead of posting the other 4? So you think about the concept of how do I want to be seen in the storytelling industry, and that's when you start creating your content that is valuable, that is nice. Some people might not like it, some people might love it, but at the end of the day is that it's content that you created. It's content that you are sharing. So the important part is, do you want to share what you just created after taking it?
All right, thanks, Simple. Diane, on the issue of travel and tourism being sector driven by the private sector, how do you, or maybe suggest as a content creator, do we start unlocking those investments from the sector and then ultimately benefiting local communities?
Great. So before I answer that question, because I did make a note about it, just wanted to add to what Mpho had said. There are some places like Fat Olive Restaurant where there are activities for kids. There's boat rides, there's a petting zoo with animals in that place. Cradle Boutique Hotel, they also do lots of nature walks. Walter Sisulu Gardens that I love, absolutely. Maropeng is opened. And Nairok's my favorite spot in all of Joburg, the sculpture park, which is fantastic. So I like what the person was asking, that it is private sector driven. I like that, but it is public sector led. And that's always key for me, that tourism is not a sector that runs on its own. There's definitely a partnership between different players. So from Gauteng tourism, tourism, and these individual owners. In terms of PR and positioning, what matters right now is the National Development Plan. Although we might not believe in it, some of us might have lost faith in the NDP, but job creation is still really important. Poverty alleviation is still really important. Skills development and training, that's still really important. And I think it ties back to what I'd said initially, that some businesses are pivoting now to respond to very real needs. So whether it is jobs, whether it is skills, or whether it is repurposing different parts of their business, I think that's the way to attract investment, because people will invest in things or in entities or in assets that show not only alignment with the national development strategy, but also that show potential for growth. So what we know, I mean, throughout this COVID thing, we know that people will always need food. So if one part of your business is now sustainable food gardening, then by God, start it. If you are now going to become the center where you train people in terms of COVID protocols, health and safety protocols, perhaps that's another part of your business, because I don't believe that the physical distancing is going to go away overnight. We're going to be stuck with this for a very long time. So I think if we're looking at our businesses, whether we are a restaurant or a guest lodge or a hotel, we've got to look at the characteristics of our business that speak to a national agenda. So for me, that's really critical. I mean, the rest of it, I mean, there's all these fancy fills and things that we can do. We can put out videos, we can put out pictures and all of that. But if there's no solid business plan to back all of it that says, look, this is a sustainable business, I think we'll find ourselves in trouble. So one piece of advice is that people have moved now from sustainability reporting to an integrated annual report of which sustainability is part. That I've seen in other instances as being what has drawn investment for businesses. For example, like with factories that were on the verge of closing, they invested in a sustainability report. They then got the contract for Puma to produce on the entire continent all of their active way. So a sustainability report for me it's a bankable proposal. It says to investors what you are investing in, you're going to see returns on it. So the alignment with national strategy and also investing in a long-term forecast. Yeah.
And Thando, with your digital content strategy expertise, to the question of how we then start highlighting the value of tourism on the visitor economy, particularly with content creation. How do we ensure that our content is less informal, is sociable, and that we are seen to be doing fun?
It's just in simple things like captions, and just, I keep on saying, vocalize to people that you are accessible.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of things, like for example, Soweto Towers. Some people don't know that you don't go there without calling. It's as simple as that. Simple things that you don't think. To tell them, we are open between this and this and this. You don't have to call to come through. This is home. You know, wear your mask and come through. Have very relatable content, relatable pictures, and relatable captions. I feel like captions are important. If you do want to put pricing or specials, people do come for that. Like somebody asked about what to do with your family and kids. You know, sometimes a picture doesn't quite tell you that this is kid friendly. Put it out there. Like, kids are more than welcome here. This is a kid friendly space. I know mothers are big on those type of spaces. So if a place already did put it out there that kids are welcome here, we've got this and this and this, mention, because also mothers, they like to know what activities are there for their kids, the safety, the play area. Are there going to be other kids, or have you created a situation where your own kids can play by themselves? So I would say it's just that, be vocal and be upfront. Yeah.
And then Thando, on the flip side of it, I mean, if we are to start showcasing tourism as serious, and by serious, I mean showcasing that there's value in the tourism industry and the sector at large. How do we communicate that as well on social media, apart from it being just myself on Instagram on a mountain cliff or having a glass of champagne? How do we also communicate that the value of tourism and really showcasing the investment that is coming in there, and also showing the beneficiation of what the tourism industry brings?
Okay, I've got two answers to that. The first one still goes back to be vocal. If you guys have created so much employment, be vocal about that. People love to support things that are supporting the greater community. We have an unemployment crisis, you know? So if you guys say that you are employing graduates or you've created this much employment, put it out there. Did you know that Gauteng Tourism has created 10,000 jobs, those type of things. Just a fun fact. You can create fun facts. Those are things that you need to be vocal about. People need to know. There's a coffee shop in Marshalltown. The waiters and waitresses are actually graduates. So there's nobody who doesn't have a graduate thing. So I support that coffee shop a lot. It's called Kramer's Coffee, because I'm like, this is outstanding. Wow, you know, a coffee shop that only employs graduates, because there's this unemployment imbalance, you know. And then the second phase of it could be cross collaboration and cross promotion. It goes back to what Umpo said about shooting your shot. And it goes back to what I said about start where you are. You know, if Anele does not communicate with other influencers, if Like of Things does not collaborate with other we now need to work together. There's strength in numbers. So from media to influencers to travel organizations, we all need to work together. And I like that we did this as women, for example, you know. So whichever grouping you want to go for, it could be for Black businesses, could be for women, could be for whatever the case may be, Gauteng businesses. There's someone who asked a question just here by the chats, and I said to them, how about you reach out to a travel destination in Soweto? They are in the Val. And I said, reach out and promote their stuff. They will promote yours. That way you guys have cross-reference audiences. So whatever you promoted in the Val about Soweto, people will know when they come to Soweto, they'll think of that place. And whoever's in Soweto, when they go to Val, they'll think, hey, let me try Val Explorer. Those type of things. So we need to work in numbers and work in cross-functional, it's cross-functional workspaces.
Yeah,
that's what I'd call it. Yeah.
We still have a few more minutes. Maybe I'll hand over to Mputle again for any last comments.
Thank you, Anele. I just want to acknowledge Mel Klapi for her previous question on family and child travel, and Baba Khaukhane. This is our boss, by the way. So thank you, Thando, for actually answering the question from Petra, because that's one of the questions that I was actually going to pose to the panelists. But I think for now, that's about it. Thank you.
No, thank you once again for your questions, and I can see there's also some comments on our social media pages, and we will definitely be responding to those as well. As we wrap up, I think firstly, ladies from the panel, thank you so much for enlightening us and imparting your knowledge with us today. It has been an absolute pleasure. And we look forward to having more of these discussions on our social media platforms. We are all about digital, so nothing should stop us on that front. Thank you again to the attendees of our session today. We were privileged, really, thanks to technology again, that we can have you guys coming from all over the country and the many parts of the world. And we greatly appreciate that you have taken this time to be here with us today. And as a surprise, we will be having a third installment of our engagement sessions, this time on a bit of a more different note next week. We will be joined by individuals in the creative industry, and we'll be coming there live at the Box Shop in Vilagazi Street in Soweto. The session will take a different format, more different to the traditional webinars that we've been having. We will also be having a fashion show, and there will be a live performance that's in store for everyone. So next week's discussions are going to be quite exciting. We will be responding to the needs expressed by Gauteng entrepreneurs in the creative space. These people are artists. They have played pivotal roles in galleries, in film production, in publishing. They are musicians right through to being designers and crafters. And in the session next week, they will engage on the development of capacity building in order to assist in transforming our local talent into a catalyst that's going to drive a dynamic creative industry that can then obviously foster a bit of sustainable employment while we contribute to the economic growth and the enhancement of Destination Gauteng. So please bring your creativity, bring your expression. The creative economy starts here. Follow us on our social media channels for more info on that one. Again, we are at Visit Gauteng on Twitter and Instagram, and I Love Gauteng on Facebook. So I see you next week. The session has come to a close, and thank you once again.